There's a lot of aspects of living in Saigon that were different from other places where we had people there.
Completely.
Of course, then every place was different, and you lived in Japan as well as Southeast Asia. So your experience is even broader than mine, even though you didn't go to Saigon.
Or I don't think my experiences are as broad as yours.
Well, I mean,
and I don't
as
think
far
there's
as living
never
in different places, but it's, you know, Saigon is not some place I'd recommend as a retirement home.
No. I am interested in in the Air America operations and the different theaters that that you operated in. And did you do some work in Cambodia?
Just over Cambodia. I didn't fly in and out of there, but we had a deal going with Vopars and Twin Otters. We put ferry tanks in the Otters. The Vopars already had a 600-gallon fuel capacity. So we would go down there and orbit around for as long as we could, 10, 11 and a half hours at a time over areas where the bad guys were operating, and we had two locals in the back that were monitoring their radio transmissions.
You remember what years these were?
Well, that was later on. I forgot when all that was going on, like 73, I think, maybe in Cambodia. In 72, 73 time period. So we would just stay up around 12,000 feet, hopefully to be out of range of those SA-7s. And just try to record what the bad guys were saying. And the guys in the back, they would hear something going on. And one time I remember they said, oh, the guy on the ground says, don't say anything right now. He said, there's an airplane up there. So we flew off about 10 miles. We could still hear him, and they continued the conversation. We got it all.
And that was the goal.
Yeah, and we could see what was going on. You know, if the weather's good, which it was sometimes, we could see the guys on the banks of the Mekong sinking the ships, and the U.S. military jets trying to bomb the guys that were sinking the ships. All that kind of stuff. So we kind of we had a little view of the war, because those were a lot of the time that's the area we were flying over where the action was. So that was kind of interesting, but it was very tiring to sit up there for that long in a small confined airplane. It's like monitoring the sensors on the trail with that other ballpark program.
Typically 10, 12-hour flights?
Yeah,
maybe.
Until we ran out of, got too low on fuel, we just had to go back to Pak Se.
This is usually questions I don't ask to the end of the interviews, but why did you leave the company, and when did you leave the company?
I left the company because I had a choice of either going back to Saigon when Laos operation was over. They were closing up Thailand, and as of the 1st of July '74, and they said, you want to go back to Saigon and fly porters? I said, no, I don't want to go back to Saigon and fly porter, because I think I've used up enough lives. I don't want to go back in a single engine airplane, and I knew it was going down like it did in the end.
The troops pulling out and all.
Yeah, I didn't want to take the family back down there, and my family didn't want me to go by myself, and I wasn't about to take them. And I knew Saigon was going to go down because the Americans had pulled out, and I'm sure that we would have lost Saigon in '68 if the Americans hadn't been there. And I told the guys that went, I said, don't carry anything you can't carry in your hand, because if you do, you're going to lose it. And some of them went down there and they lost all their household goods and everything. And then some of them went to Iran after that and they lost it again when the Shah went down the tubes. So,
were you involved in anything over there?
No, I didn't go to Iran, no.
How are you typically received when people find out that you were with Air America?
Some of them don't even know anything about that era, but the guys, some of them military were over there, they knew about Air America, some of them that weren't there said, oh, I heard of that, I saw the movie. Well, the movie, it didn't have anything to do with what it was really about, or what really happened. It was a little comedy they made for the fast buck. It had nothing to do with reality. They roughly had on the same color uniform, but that was about it.
How do you feel about what you were doing over there, as far as your contribution? And I mean, I know you're a paid professional to fly and do what you're do what you're paid to do.
Well, I didn't really feel like I've been called a mercenary, and I didn't really feel like a mercenary because even though the money was good, no amount of money can get somebody to go out and risk their life many times a day. You know, you got to feel like you're doing something worthwhile. You're either supporting refugees, or you're helping the war effort, or you're dropping medical supplies to troops, or you're doing medical evacuations, or something worthwhile. Otherwise, you wouldn't be doing it. I wouldn't be doing it.
Do you think most of the pilots you flew with felt the same?
I think a lot of them did. And maybe a few of them said, "Well, I can survive another year. I can make this much money, and you know, that's, with my military retirement, that's all I'll need." But I think a lot of us got involved in it, emotionally, personally involved in what was happening, especially in Laos. Maybe not so much in Vietnam.
Do you definitely feel there was a personal involvement, an emotional, personal
Oh,
involvement?
yeah. Mm.
Yeah.
But I think you also, I wouldn't want to go out and get shot at, you know. It's not something you look for, but I think you get, your adrenaline is pumping so much all the time, you kind of get addicted a little bit to that excitement. But that doesn't mean you're going to be reckless. You say, well, you know what I'm saying? In order to survive, I just felt like I had to tell myself every day that I didn't think I was invincible at all. I just had to say, well, I could get killed today if I'm not really focused on what I'm doing. Because you're operating on such a narrow margin going into those little bitty airfields in the bad weather and trying to get a briefing before you go out every day and know what the tactical situation is and know which way to turn in a drop pattern and which strip was lost during the night. So you've got an educated guess as to what you can do to get the job done and come back home at night. It was a challenge.
Did you have fun?
Well, I had some fun, yeah. I guess we had some good times, but you get a sense of accomplishment when you get in and out of a place. Or maybe you got to land with a tailwind, you know, and you got a pretty good load on, and it's a one-way strip. Then you kind of slide up to the end and whip the tail around. Lock the tail wheel again and pull the flaps up to the takeoff position and hope the incoming doesn't get you before you can get off again.
That's a sense of accomplishment, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know, if you can safely make over 40 landings a day, most of them on stall strips, or you can get your airdrop in there where it's needed and get back out again. You've done something. There's no other way to look at it.
How do you feel that your career with Air America, after it ended, do you think it helped you later on with your career in aviation?
From the standpoint of going up to another company and saying I flew with Air America, I don't think it did make much difference. But the fact that I kind of networked with other pilots that were over there led to almost virtually all the jobs I got after I came back. So, you know, it helped from that standpoint.
As in most businesses, it's really about who you know.
You know, Jimmy Pearson got me into big airplanes, which led to UPS, which is where I'm going to be when I retire. I was very fortunate to get on with him, but if it hadn't been for Jimmy Pearson, I never would have got into it because he got me into DCH, which led me into Rosenbaum, and then I'm not proud of working for Rosenbaum, except it kept my mortgage paid or whatever. And then I found out through Jimmy Rosenbaum that Orion had gotten a Tigers contract, and they were needing people, so I went up and interviewed with them, got hired, and they were a subcontractor with UPS. So that got me hired with UPS, and then I went from the 8 to the 747.
That's as good as it gets.
Well, I was too old to get on with a major airline when I came back
Yeah.
from Southeast Asia. They wouldn't hire people my age. I stayed too long or something. I don't know what it was.
Yeah, we got to fly the biggest bird in the sky.
Well, the biggest civilian bird, yeah.
Yeah. Well.
But I tell you what, Porter's more fun.
Yeah, it's kind of like driving a. I don't know. I don't know what it's kind of like, but I would assume it's kind of like riding around on a dirt bike. Where you have a lot of
versus
fun.
a semi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
That's it. What I'm doing now is a good job, don't get me wrong, but it's not fun. It was fun to fly the new, when you go to a different airplane, it's kind of fun to fly that airplane for a while, and then it gets, just too routine. It's just a job after that. But it was never just a job with Air America.